Hey guys, welcome back to another stream. So this is called RJR Nabisco. What's going on here is for one of my classes at school, I have to read through one of the cases that our teacher assigned us, and these cases have to do with private equity deals. So the one that we're looking at today is going to be RJR Nabisco. RJR Nabisco, I think, was back in the 1980s a conglomerate that had a tobacco and food business, and also some energy, oil and gas subsidiaries. Food business was one of the biggest. I'd say the food business was the biggest portion of the company in terms of revenue. Tobacco was second, the smaller subsidiaries were third, but the tobacco and part of the business had the highest amount of operating income. And that makes sense, I think, intuitively, just because tobacco, I think, should have a higher operating margin, or maybe a higher net margin compared to food. Food is a super, I would say, perfectly competitive type of industry where you have different types of farmers offering pretty much the same type of good. Now, on the tobacco side, you have also similar types of competition, but I think the cost of tobacco that people can actually sell is a bit higher than food, because there's a small, I guess you could say, oligopoly of a few companies owning a mass majority of the market, so they have more pricing power there. So I think what we should do for this case, we're gonna have to discuss this in class, and I think it's a random discussion, as in a group will get randomly picked. They have to give their thoughts about that, so I just have to prepare my thoughts about, I think, first, let's try to understand what's going on here. There's a few parties involved and a few things to talk about. And then second, analysis of the numbers. So there's a lot of exhibits, a lot of forecasts that some private equity firms made in order to justify their so-called bid price, the amount that they would actually pay per share for the company. And maybe finally, I'll discuss what I think, what my group thinks. So this right here, I'm just going to do this alone and share this with my group later to see what else they think. So that's maybe the framework I'll work with, and I'll just get right into it. I don't think I can share the case because it has a big ass sign saying that it's exclusive use of Bizang 2024. So if this channel ends up blowing up and however it ends up seeing that I'm using their stuff and streaming it into the entire world, then I might get in trouble. So I'll keep it off for now. Alright. So I like how these guys break it down, right? So there's the company background. So RJR Nabisco is in the 1980s, RJR Nabisco was a huge I would say consumer staples conglomerate that was mainly comprised of 1, food, 2, tobacco. So it also owned Del Monte. Now, I think whenever I go to Whole Foods in Giant, the bananas that I always get are the Del Monte bananas. I feel like there's also another big banana company. So I think also Nabisco brands. So Nabisco, these are the guys that make Oreo, Chips Ahoy, Ritz, Quaker's Crackers. Also A1 steak sauce. I had no idea. Okay. Okay, so let's say in 1988. So food was around $9.4 billion sales. 915 million operating income. $6.3 billion sales. 1.8 billion operating income. So this is in 1990s or 87. It's also 1987. Alright, so break down the tobacco business. You had brands included Winston, you also had Salem. So I haven't really heard of these. I've heard of Camel before and Vantage. Okay, let me see. Winston cigarettes. Yeah, the biggest one I've heard of are Marlboro and Camel cigarettes. Those are probably the biggest ones I've heard of. Winston. Okay, I mean, this packaging made it look familiar. Whenever I go to 7-Eleven, what is Salem cigarettes? So RJ Reynolds Tobacco Company. So it's interesting. If you go onto RJ Reynolds' website, which is the, I guess you could say, holding company of all the different cigarette brands, the tobacco brands, their front page has to do with them trying to say they're transforming tobacco and maybe reducing the harmful effects, or try to educate people about the harmful effects, which has a direct impact on their business via reducing the amount of people that are actually going to use tobacco. And then at the very top, let's see. So this is what I mean here. It also says here that the federal court has ordered RJ Reynolds Tobacco to make these statements, so it's interesting. So food, so brands included, I think Oreos was the biggest one. Yeah, Ritz crackers. Ritz crackers. Oh, Chips Ahoy. So this is the Nabisco. And then there's also Del Monte. Fresh fruits. Do canned fruit. Okay, so this is a bit of an overview of the company. I'm going to take a look at the exhibits actually. Done. Okay, now I need to find that, bring it in here. I think it probably saved at the desktop. Sort by date added, maybe? Okay, here we go. RJR Nabisco. I'm gonna bring all of these into the same directory. Okay. So now I think I can add an image and then call this exhibit 2. Copy relative path. So the company had pretty consistent growth from 1982 to 1987. Earnings per share grew from 3.13 to 4.7. Revenues pretty much doubled. Operating income. Oh, okay, I see. So the reason why is because the Nabisco brands was acquired in 1985. Right. Acquired in 1985 for $4.9 billion. Okay, so they also had a spirits and wines business. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna add this to zip2.png. So this right here, this is the cash flow projections for RJR Nabisco under its pre-bid strategy. So this is before the management group, before KKR ended up actually placing a bid for RJR Nabisco. This is what the company had predicted revenue and operating income to be. Okay, so we have the company background down a little bit, so that's good. We have a basic idea of how I got a text from Anna. Dude, she's been ghosting my friends and I for so long. I think she's about to go to Japan, so she was just texting that we should meet up so that we could see each other before she leaves. I'll respond after this, but I think what I'm gonna do is think about the next section. So the bids. When I say the bids, I'm referring to the idea of people that are actually bidding or wanting to buy RJR Nabisco. And through that, I think there's a few different people to think about here. So the first one, people/groups want to buy RJR Nabisco. The first one I'll think about is the management group. Second is KKR. And I think that these are probably the two main people to look at here. The management group. So management group comprised of senior leaders within the company most notably. So we had the Charles Hughes. He was the chairman of the board. We also had F. Ross Johnson. He was the president and CEO. And I feel like there's one more to think about. President and CEO. Okay, it was mentioned up here. Edward Horrigan. He was the vice chairman and CEO of RJ Reynolds Tobacco. So that's the CEO of the subsidiary that deals with tobacco, right? Oops, shit. Like it's during the 1988, during the time around 1988, there was some, oh, YouTube is not responding. Great. Okay. Seems like the latency or bandwidth isn't really working here. I'm having, OBS is saying that there's some trouble with my network and connection. Okay, so this, alright, now it's better. I don't know what happened. There's also this idea of bit rate. Okay, maybe I'll look into that after this. Oh shoot. I do need this. There was activity with hostile takeovers in the food space. So we have Pillsbury. Okay, here we go. Here we have the thing again. All right. Pillsbury. Takeover by Grand Metropolitan PLC. So also Kraft. I feel like Warren Buffett, Berkshire, ended up purchasing Kraft. I just remember that being part of their portfolio. Takeover for Kraft by Philip Morris. Miracle Whip 7 C's. $12.5. Okay. Contains projections for RJR Nabisco under the management group plan. So they had an initial bid price of $75 per share, which was 34% higher than the pre-offer price of $55 per share. Total value was around $17 billion. So we'll call this the price. Then also strategy. There. The manage group wanted to sell off RJR Nabisco's food business and retain its tobacco business. They thought the market undervalued the strong cash flows from the tobacco business and did not fully value its food business because of its association with tobacco. So this is the HBS case. So how would that work? So if the market value under the strong cash flows in the tobacco business, they're not fully valued because maybe their strategy was to sell off the food business at a premium and then possibly reinvest that back into the cash flows, not the cash flows, but reinvest that back into the tobacco business, or maybe pay it out to shareholders. There's also and then maybe through time, the undervaluation of the tobacco business will get arbitraged away so that it becomes what people would say fairly valued or fairly priced. And maybe they're thinking that the fair price is higher than what it's currently selling at. Okay, I'm gonna stop streaming for now. Getting a call from Allison, so I'll see you guys in the next one.